DEA agent Joseph Bongiovanni is being monitored with an ankle bracelet this afternoon after a federal jury failed to come to an agreement on most of the government's case against him. After years of investigation by the U.S. Attorney's Office, 6 days of deliberation, the only thing the jury could agree on was that Bongiovanni committed 2 lesser crimes and he's not guilty on a third.
A mistrial has been declared for 12 of the 15 counts against him. Vincent Doyle, the former president of the New York State Bar Association and now a partner at Connors LLP, joins us now as a legal analyst. Vince, thank you so much for joining us. I guess the first question I'll ask is, where do we stand now in this and where could we go in the future with this?
Well, as you mentioned, there were 15 original counts or charges, and there was a verdict on 3 of them. Any verdict, according to the Constitution, as interpreted by our courts, has to be unanimous. All of the jurors, however many there are, in this case there were 12, have to be unanimous. So the jury could only reach a unanimous verdict on 3 of the charges. Now, 2 of those were guilty verdicts. Those are felonies. They carry possible punishment up to 5 years, more likely under the sentencing guidelines, somewhere between 1 to 3 years. But the most serious charges that include receiving bribes, those are the charges that the jury could not reach a verdict on, and the judge had to declare mistrial.
This was such a surprising decision that came after so many years of investigation and the confidence that the U.S. attorneys had going into this case. It's also not over. They have to try another major defendant in Peter Gervais coming up. That's a separate case in and of itself.
Well, and the interesting thing there is whether they'll be tried together.
Exactly, because initially they were thinking that they were going to, and then the judge decided to separate them. This clearly boils down to a problematic jury room. These folks could not. It wasn't that they just couldn't come to an agreement, but it seems like there was a lot of infighting. Have you ever been faced with that? Well,
it's not unusual in cases to have disagreement among the jurors. In fact, sometimes, if the lawyers listen carefully enough, you can hear arguing going on in the jury room. But what's unusual in this case is the number of notes that came out and the stark disagreements that they demonstrated. We had notes, as usual, from the jury foreperson. We also had notes from an individual juror expressing her own, apparently it was a female juror, her own personal dissatisfaction with how the process was going to the judge.
When it comes to the jury room, because you only have to do your job as an attorney. You present the case, you present the evidence, and then when it's handed to those 12 men and women, I mean, that is such a unique dynamic to, of course, what we do in our legal system. But this is an example of what? This is an example of how the system can break down, you think? Or is this an example of how it should work if they can't come into an agreement?
Well, I think we view it as part and parcel of the requirement that we have a unanimous jury. You have 12 people. It's hard to get 12 people to agree on anything these days, and you had to agree on very serious charges against a retired DEA agent. So it was a difficult job that they had. But this is unusual, the amount of disagreement that they had and how it spilled into the courtroom. Normally what happens in the jury room is absolutely sacred. It can't be violated. The judge can't go in there. The lawyers can't go in there. And even after a verdict, the lawyers are not allowed to contact jurors to ask them what happened in the jury room.
Interesting.
So have you ever seen anything like that where one specific jury member is giving a note out of that jury room? Have you seen anything like that before?
Usually the notes come from whoever the jury selects or the court selects as the foreperson. So this is unusual.
Vince, what do you think and you do not have any direct involvement in this case whatsoever. So I'm curious, just from a ballpark, knowing your legal expertise, what would a case like this cost to put on? How much do you think this has cost taxpayers, again, without knowing the actual number? Are we talking millions? Are we talking tens of millions?
No, we're definitely talking, I was going to give an estimate of hundreds of thousands. I think the amount of investigation that went into this case is substantial. The amount of court time, attorney time, all the support staff, the number of starts and stops and procedural motions that have been made in this case are truly amazing. And through it all, Judge Villardo has handled it very well, but he has a lot more that he's going to have to handle coming up.
So now where do we go from here with the mistrial of all those counts, the 12 of the 15? How long could this be drawn out even further from today?
Well, the first thing that needed to happen was the prosecutors to announce whether they were going to go forward and try Agent Bongiovanni on those charges, which happened today, as I understand. The U.S. Attorney Trini Ross announced they will go forward with the prosecution. What happens next is, as I understand, the defense attorneys have announced that they intend to file some motions to challenge what happened in the jury room to the extent they can and what the notes indicated. So Judge Villardo will have to decide those motions. Then he'll have to schedule a trial, and as we said, he'll have the difficult decision of whether he should reunite the case that originally was won against Mr. Gerace and Agent Bongiovanni, or whether he should keep them separate. So I expect that will be several months down the road before we hear something.
Another several months on a case that has already spanned a couple of years as well. Vince Doyle is a partner at Connors LLP law firm. Thank you so much for being here. We really appreciate your insight. Thank you.
Glad to do it.
Thank you, Vince.